Breaking news, breaking news. This is absolutely crazy, everyone. U.S. Coast Guard came under attack last night by a driver in a U-Haul vehicle who tried to ram into them. U.S. Coast Guard returned fire, shooting the driver in the stomach. Antifa out there, protesters out there, rioters out there. This is nuts, insane. Check it out.
Watching all morning here as multiple law enforcement agencies are at the scene of a shooting that happened late last night right at the entrance to Coast Guard Island, Alameda. The location had been the scene of a day-long protest. We had that part for you live yesterday on Mornings on 2. Ali Rasmus there again with a look at still an active scene behind you, Ali.
Yeah, law enforcement agents expect to be out here for the next several hours investigating this shooting that happened late last night. Right now, where we are is Oakland's Embarcadero and Livingston, and the entire block behind us is closed off for all the law enforcement and police investigators. You can look onto Coast Guard Island Bridge, which is just about a block away from us, and you can see it is lit up. Some of the equipment that investigators have been using still in place there, and they're collecting and gathering evidence as they have been throughout the morning and the overnight hours. They're investigating a shooting that happened here just after 10 o'clock last night. Law enforcement officers who'd been in position on the Coast Guard Island Bridge for most of the day opened fire on a U-Haul truck that started backing up into the entrance of the bridge. A KTVU photographer was filming as the incident unfolded. There was about 10 seconds of gunfire followed by some yelling. A law enforcement source confirms to KTVU that 2 people were struck by the bullets, the driver of that U-Haul and a second person not in the vehicle. Now, we don't know the extent of their injuries or the conditions, but about 12 to 14 hours before that shooting happened, the entrance to Coast Guard Island was the scene of a demonstration to protest the planned deployment of federal agents to conducting immigration operations before the president called that off. A witness who was interviewed by police say the man driving that U-Haul, he says, was not part of the protest earlier in the day and had only arrived on the scene about an hour before.
He did not interact with the protesters. He did not interact with the rest of us. He barely got outside of the U-Haul. Eventually, he broke through the barrier that we had out. He drove through the barrier that we had out in reverse and then reversed towards the Coast Guard. They stacked up, they drew, they threatened to shoot him if he went any further. He burned rubber right back at him.
And that's when the shooting occurred. But by the time it had happened, most of the protest crowd had already left. There were only a handful of people still in that crosswalk leading up to the bridge following the protests, that much more active and mostly peaceful protests that had happened earlier in the day. A source confirms that the Coast Guard police are the ones who fired their weapons, but the FBI is the lead agency investigating what led up to the shooting. And just in the last hour, we've also seen back out here live, you can see some FBI agents now walking to the scene. There's some tents set up where a lot of investigators are doing their work. The California Highway Patrol is in charge here of closing off the streets. Alameda Police and Oakland Police were earlier in the overnight hours involved in closing off some of this street, but no longer. Live in Oakland, Ali Rasmus, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
Ali, thank you. Across the bay here, protesters also gathered in San Francisco in response to reports of increased immigration enforcement. Video here from Citizen App shows a group of people marching down Market Street. The march started at Embarcadero Plaza, where one woman told us even without mass arrests, she and others needed to make their voices heard.
It's all the more important that we stay in the streets and that we stay activated, because really I think an organized community is the reason that Daniel Lurie felt pressured to make that call and why Donald Trump did back down in the first place.
Faith, labor, and community leaders released a joint statement signed by more than 150 organizations rejecting the manufactured chaos, pain, and damage this invasion threatens to unleash on the Bay Area. Dozens also rallied in front of San Jose City Hall last night to show their support for the South Bay's immigrant communities. Organizers say despite yesterday's announcement from the president and San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie that National Guards are not coming to that city, they're still worried.
Our time now 7:06. While President Trump says he called off plans to send a surge of federal troops to San Francisco, it's still not clear if that includes increased immigration enforcement. The president announced that yesterday morning as the first federal troops were arriving at Coast Guard Island in Oakland. The president says San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie convinced him to hold off on the planned surge, at least for now.
I told him the same thing that I have told our residents. San Francisco is on the rise, but having the military and militarized immigration enforcement in our city will hinder our recovery.
Now, President Trump says Salesforce CEO Mark Benioff and NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang also helped to convince him to back off on his planned surge in San Francisco.
And check this out. The person that was just in that video being interviewed, I pointed an arrow at his hat. Look at the hat. Of course Antifa was out there last night when a U-Haul truck tried to ram into the U.S. Coast Guard in Oakland. Look at the hat of what that person they interviewed is wearing. Clearly Antifa, the three arrows pointing down. So it's clear that Antifa was out there themselves. Most likely the driver was probably Antifa too. Antifa out there. Antifa is out there. Also, folks, that same U-Haul truck was out there all day yesterday. It arrived in the morning time when the protests started. The protesters actually opened up the back and were taking out signs and supplies out of the U-Haul truck, and then it parked in the middle of the street there and was there for all afternoon, and then it got moved to the side, and then as the sun went down, the U-Haul truck eventually made its way through the protesters there and charged at the U.S. Coast Guard. But yeah, I put this out there because that same U-Haul truck was out there all day long. Same driver. There was no other U-Haul truck in that area. No other U-Haul truck arrived. Clearly, the participants in this protest were involved with this U-Haul truck. As we see across the country, particularly Portland too, U-Haul trucks arrive and then they load out supplies through the back. Signs, water, food, tables, tents, whatever, weapons probably too. So that all happened yesterday. It started in the morning. We were covering it live on JLR Investigates, and protesters were there blocking. You could call them protest. I call them rioters, but you could call them protesters, whatever, blocking the entrance, the one-way entrance to the base there, which is on an island, prohibiting vehicles from coming in and out. It took the police to push these protesters back. At one point in the morning, Border Patrol used flashbangs to get the crowd out of the way. Then the mob grew at night. Same mob in the same U-Haul truck that was there in the day bringing out supplies did this attack on Coast Guard last night when it was dark. That's when Antifa and the terrorists come out and do their violence at night. Getting insane, folks. Clearly, I can't see how anyone can say that the Coast Guard authorities there were not justified in shooting that vehicle. Of course, the vehicle was reversing at full speed. And even one of their Antifa comrades literally admitted to that. So I say this person's Antifa because you can see the 3 lines on his hat. Look at the hat. Look at the hat. The 3 lines. So Antifa is out there, folks. It is crazy out there in Oakland, San Francisco. They all came out there because the Trump administration said they were going to do a surge, and now they backed down. I guess Trump spoke with the mayor of San Francisco. Not clear what's going to happen in Oakland. Oakland might be a different situation. We shall see, but this is maybe something to come. So stay safe out there. We are definitely monitoring the situation in Oakland, California. The attack on law enforcement needs to stop. I am JLR Investigates. Let me know what you think. We're covering what is going on with these, the clashes between protesters, rioters, and federal agents. Federal agents, DHS, Border Patrol, ICE, ATF. These incidents, it's going to backfire on the protesters because they're going to use that to justify the National Guard eventually coming in. And I do think the National Guard is eventually going to come in to quell the violence. What do you think? I am JLR Investigates. We will talk soon. Stay tuned.